It's gonna be a good one.
It's gonna be a good one.
Definitely a different type of process.
Cut down or freeze up.
Being a coach's son.
Jackson, of course, they keep retooling. One stolen base, a hit by pitch. Oh my goodness. Hello everyone, welcome inside Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast, Legion Baseball Talk. Got some good stuff for you today. As you can see to my right, I am joined by the Washington director, head coach, jack of all trades,
Village idiot.
Washington Post 218, Ken Getsee.
Good to be here.
I didn't say that.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Always love having the conversation with you, Ken. Good to see you, man.
Good to be here. Good to see you.
Coming off the big shindig, the Mid-South Regional. How'd that go?
It was great. We had the most incredible weather. I don't know if anybody remembers, but it was about 75 degrees every single day without a cloud in the sky. I mean, we're going to pay for that next year. I'm certain of it. But it was pretty amazing weather. We had some unbelievable baseball. We had some great tales of woe about the teams getting to visit our local town and country fair. So it was pretty good stuff.
Who ended up winning?
Louisiana.
They were pretty stacked, weren't they?
Yeah. They had to basically win two games to win it. The Mississippi team was really good, and they came and they beat them, and it was something to see. Wow. Good baseball.
There you go, and that's what it is. I'm looking forward to. You got one more year. Would you do it again? Would you do? I know you got 2 years.
Yeah.
I know you're going to do it next year.
I got you.
But would you put the bid in again?
It's hard to say because we put so much into this.
Yeah.
I think we're going to need a decompression year or two before we actually make a commitment like that again. Our chairman, Trent Hendrickson, he went out and got us all the sponsorships we needed to make it work. And if you can only go to the well so many times. So
right.
we could, we'd have to be very careful in how we approach our sponsors going forward, and maybe pare it back so we can just we do have a better idea of what the cost is. So we wouldn't have to maybe go over the top a little bit like we did. And I'm not saying we did anything wrong. We just had to protect ourselves, and we did a good job of that.
I think, this is the first time you've done that, right?
Yes. And
there's always the learning curve, correct?
Yeah, there's a learning curve, there's upfront expenses, and then there's those last-minute expenses that you cannot calculate for, that you wear it and hope that, your coffers were big enough that you could cover it.
Right.
And we were more than covered, and, that was the comforting part about it, giving us that knowledge that if we were going to do it again, we wouldn't have to go quite as far.
The other part is manpower, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we had a core committee of 4, and then we expanded that out into, I guess, maybe a dozen people. Mm-hmm. And for next year, we're going to have hopefully a minimum of 36 or 48. Wow. So every committee is going to have at least 3 or 4 people under it to help take care of the burden.
Wow. Yep. Well, there you go. Looking forward to it. 2025 Mid-South Regional will be at Ronsick Park again this year, guys. So we do have something new, though. You're coming on into the 2025 season as a commissioner for the state. Good luck with that.
Luck is something we'll need. That's correct. It's a labor of love. Like anything else that we do. Everybody in the state is a volunteer, mm-hmm. And I've always kind of had a feeling that if you're not willing to put your foot forward and help, then you shouldn't really complain too much about it. And I think I think the state, Russ and Tom heard a lot of complaining from me last year, and I felt like I should offer my services. And listen, everybody's a volunteer. They were doing the absolute best that they could do, and they're doing a great job. And I just felt like if I could get in there and just put the little thoughts that I have in my head, just like Jason Howard is, right, as well, that I can help maybe kind of ease some of that unsteadiness within a lot of the actual on-field coaches, where that disconnect from like maybe the upper group of management to the on-field coaches. And if we can fix that, I think we're going to have a better path going forward.
That's interesting you say that, because we've been working with American Legion Baseball since 2022. And I've been around it. I played American Legion Baseball. My son played some. My brother-in-law, he's the post commander at 611. He coached at Baldwin. Took one of the last years they had the regional for the juniors.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
They won it at Emporia State.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I took the Baldwin team there. Guy Weary. Shout out to him.
Yeah.
Old Navy guy.
All right.
And so very familiar with the program. Greg Soib over there.
Oh, yeah. Greg's
they've
awesome.
been there doing a long time.
Yeah.
So I think that what I saw there, I think that's an interesting point of view, that disconnect. What happened in there? Where'd that go to? And reconnecting, because there's another point I want to get to later with that part of it. But I think that's interesting. And nothing. There's some turnover this year with the commission. I don't think that's always a bad thing. Not that guys did a bad job or this or that. Sometimes a fresh pair of eyes. You got, as you said, Jason Howard. I like Connor Spinagle coming over from Sedalia. Yourself. Then
Connor's another on-field guy,
right?
And that was when I said about my complaining, those were my things last year, that I felt like we weren't connecting with all of the dots with the coaches as far as what rules are we going to play by, where how our teams, what's their path into the state tournament. And so rather than being a part of the problem, I'm decided to be part of the solution.
And that's I love that. And that's the way it should be, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Jump in the boat, man. We're all drowning.
All right. Row faster.
So what do you see after, I know it's just been a short time so far, but what do you see? Scott Blackwell, another one, jumped in there. He's been, I think he's been a district chairman, right? Before, I think, maybe.
Actually, I think he just became the district chairman this year, I think.
Well, isn't Blackwell on the commission now too?
Yes, he's the zone chairman for Zone 4.
Yes,
he's Zone 4. Anyway, that's my recollection of how it goes.
Yeah, and
well, because I think it was Stu Vincent that was
that name rings.
The 10th district chairman.
Yes.
And Scott, I think, is the 10th district chairman now. I think, and the Zone 4 commissioner.
Okay.
Both.
Okay. I got you.
Both.
I'm with you. Sometimes that gets still a little confusing.
Yeah.
For
well,
me.
I'm the 9th district treasurer and a Zone 1 commissioner. So
okay.
It's we wear a lot of hats around here. Kind of like all these here.
And I think Chris Copeland's jumped into a chair position there in the district, I think, as well.
I think you're right about that.
And I like that. I think Chris Copeland he's got a lot of enthusiasm for it, and he's doing great stuff with Kirkwood over there.
Absolutely.
And so I think the energy is there. As a group, how do you guys capitalize on that?
Well, I mean, we're the very thing. The core for me is always what's going on the field, right? If you can get out there and you play good games and you have good coaching, the rest of the stuff can follow. But you can't really put the cart before the horse. So Before you play a game, you got to know the rules, right? Before you play the game, you got to have all those little details, things in play, and then you get out there and do it, and try to make it easy. One of the things that you and I discussed pre-air time here was, what are we going to do with the rules going forward for
Yeah.
the freshmen and the juniors, and even at the senior level. So, those are things that are, kind of exciting to me.
Yeah.
Because they're always unknowns every year before you start your season, like, what's going to be the next twist. And hopefully we can, shore that up so there's not a lot of confusion with the other coaches. And I'll tell you, there's been more interest. Tom and Russ have done an unbelievable job, yourself getting the Legion word out there. And, if we can now add that back end to it, I think we can, just get to another level.
Absolutely. And there is a lot of excitement to it. I think there's a lot of people that are looking at Legion coming back, the awareness of it, and just saying, hey, and I told you this prior to it, and I believe this, and I've always believed it, because to me, what's the difference? And we've got the Centennial, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. We've got a lot of stuff coming up for that. We're working on some events, with our partners, and I'm looking forward to working that out and taking that to another level, showcasing some of the teams in American Legion Baseball. I think it would be fantastic. But with the Centennial, it's the oldest club baseball in the country. It should be celebrating. We talk about club baseball and the issues and the problems and the things and whatnot. I think there's a lot of things American Legion does well. And so, we talked about the philosophies and what you do and whatnot. Club baseball, you had what, 5 teams last year?
No, we had 4 teams. We
Four
had 4.
teams.
2 freshmen, a junior,
That's what
and
it
a
was,
senior.
2.
Yeah.
So that's a club.
Yeah, no doubt. We're all clubs. If you have more than one team, you're a club. Call it what it really is. But part of what you're talking about the growth of this is it's while the game, what we're doing is now a little bit more different.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's the awareness. It's you bringing the awareness. It's Tom and the Russ. And Russ Clicker bringing the awareness of what is happening with us.
Right.
We haven't changed. American Legion Baseball hasn't changed in 100 years. Right? It's the same pretty much.
Right.
But, we kind of lost our way because I guess people kind of wanted to try something different, and, and that's fine. Nothing is the best for every single individual. Mm-hmm. But if you see American Legion Baseball in the light that needs to be shined upon it, then you're going to see what we do. We play for a state championship at every level. We play for a regional, and we play for a World Series. It's there for the taking if teams want to get in on it. And maybe some of that got lost in the shuffle over the years.
I agree.
And this awareness you guys are putting on it is making all the difference.
There's really good coaches in American Legion Baseball, and I think that's one of the things that's kind of got lost in all of this. Me coming into this, I love what Matt Morgan and his group are doing over in Warrensburg, the Mule Club and whatnot, and they're building towards that program. Connor Spinagle is a good coach. He coaches in high school. He coaches other sports. The Moberly Sixers, Jeff Engel, that group up there. There's good coaches there. They have talent.
Right.
But as a coach, you're there to mold that talent, get them all thinking the same way and move them in the right direction, right?
Yeah. We're no different. American Legion Baseball is no different than any of these other club teams. Do we have some bad coaches in American Legion Baseball? 100%.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have some great coaches? 100%. And, that's the takeaway. It's not, with American Legion, are all the coaches good or are they all bad? That's not it. And that's not it with some of the club teams, as we're calling them, or travel teams, or whatever you want to call them. We all got to have our own crosses to bear. And, if you can mesh well with a program within the framework of your community, then you found a home for your team, for your player.
When you're basically, I guess, the program director as well at Washington 218. What do you look for? What is your thought process? And you give, other coaches some advice as far as, when you're talking about a freshman team, a junior team to your senior team, what are you looking for in your coaches that are working with those teams?
Well, it starts with when we put the coaches into the program. Every coach that's in our program played for Post 218, with the exception of myself.
Okay.
Because I'm a transplant from Florida. So these are kids, young men that we know who they are. We know how they were taught. They were taught by myself, by Coach Gardner when Coach Gardner was coaching. You take it down the line, all of our coaches, and then they learn from all of us. And then they come in and say at the freshman level, they jump in at the junior level, and you know exactly where their mind frame is and or should be. And if they bring that with them, you have a good coach.
Yeah.
Part of the secret sauce for us in Washington is try to get our past players to come back, because it just kind of keeps the the community involved.
I think that's a secret sauce, period.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I really do. I love that because you know that person, they understand the program, and how connected, because these kids also went to the high schools, whatever, connected. I know your base school's Washington. Coach Goff over there.
Awesome.
How connected are you with Coach Goff?
I mean, he's got his stuff he's got going on.
Sure.
But I mean, if we need anything, he's there for us. I mean, he came over every day during the regional and opened up their facility so the guys could, so we could use it for a warm up field. If he asked me for anything, I would do it for him, and obviously, his actions speak louder than my words because he was there for us. So I mean, we can't argue with that.
I like Coach Goff. He's fun to talk to.
Yep.
He's a trip.
Yep. I've seen you interview him a couple of times. It's great.
Yeah, we'll have him back. We'll have I want to get out to their facility. We were working towards getting out to Washington to do a GAC game of the week, and that's one of my goals this year is to be at Washington for a GAC game of the week, because I know last year he's like, I'm glad you didn't go. It was a down year.
It was.
It happens in high school baseball.
Well, and in fairness, that's a trickle down to us also.
Right.
I mean, we're heavily dependent on Washington High. We're heavily dependent on Borgia. We sprinkle a few guys here and there. But in not only his defense but our defense, that was a young team. He had a very young team. Borgia had a couple older guys, but they graduated out. And, I mean, Jack Noby he pitched, between Jack Noby and
Candlebinder.
Well, yeah, Reagan, but Caden Carroll. Caden Carroll, they picked up a lot of innings, and they don't really play Legion ball with us, so then those two are their older guys. So I mean, when it came down to it, we were young. Obviously, Washington High was young, and we wore it. I mean, but that's part of this. I mean, hopefully next year all those guys come back, or the lion's share of them come back, and they'll be older.
Oh yeah,
Part of what we got going on.
It's exactly, and there's talent there. We saw that with your freshman and JV teams last year, played very well. Let me ask you a question, and I just to be honest, they're a Jack Noby. You look at a Jack Noby. I'm sure, of course, you'd love Jack to come play baseball with you guys and whatnot. Yeah. It's a no-brainer, right?
Right.
What's your sense of that? And, when you talk to people, go, oh, they're not playing American Legion because it's just not very good. Well, with a Jack Noby, what's your thoughts on that as far as playing and how that works?
I think it's how guys get their career started.
Yeah.
Right. I believe he was. I'm going to misspeak here, but I believe he was with the Rawlings Tigers. Let's say. Okay. You get going, and then next thing you know, you have this added momentum of you got scouts following you. Well, you're not going to upset that apple cart.
Yeah.
Right. You're not going to say, well, you know what? I'm going to just switch it all up, and I'm going to go play over here. I mean, they put a lot of resources and time and effort behind him, and he did what he did what he should have done, and he should have stayed that path. And as it turned out, he had a lot of scouts following him, and I don't believe he got drafted. So I think he's at Xavier University right now.
Yeah.
And all good. That's how it should have gone. However, there's guys that are not quite throwing at 93, 94 miles an hour. That a better path, in my opinion, would be to play with us, because then you're going to not only get all of your starts, right, but we also do the same thing. I mean, we play some tough competition.
Absolutely.
And if you're not the guy that's throwing at 95, then when all the scouts are there, you may not be the guy that's on the mound when you need to be.
Right.
Which, with us, you probably will be, at least at some point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but there's a lot of ways of looking at it. It's not lost on me that, when parents, they think about what they're going to do with their kids playing the game, it always boils down to, well, I only have one son, and I only have, or it's their only chance to do this. And if that's how they feel, that's you can't get in the middle of that. And I don't want to. I
don't blame you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't either.
Right.
Because especially Mama Bear.
Right. You don't want to mess with the moms. But, if they're kind of in that gray space, that's when it's a good time to have a conversation with them.
And I think those are the things that I think you look at Jackson Angle up at Moberly. Mm-hmm. He's played with that program. There's one of and this kid he's a premier player.
Yeah, I agree.
And, so you've got...
I agree, and he's staying with that path. I mean, That's how he got started. I mean, I think he played on that Moberly team. I think he played when he was in 8th grade.
That wouldn't surprise me.
I think he was there, if I remember correctly, he was there. He played a lot of third base for them. And I was over there talking to him, and I said something to him. He goes, yeah, I just graduated 8th grade, I think is what he said. I was like, and you're playing in a senior legion game? But... I mean, it's a good
it
thing
was real, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean,
well, he's the only one. We were at in the state championships, Blue Springs, Moberly, and it was Ellsbury and Moberly, which didn't surprise me.
No, me neither. Two
best teams, and I think Moberly is going to be good. They're returning most of that team from last year. Because they had a lot of juniors, high school juniors on that team.
Right.
So here we have. Angle up. He's the only one to hit it out of that cavernous ballpark. That is a cavernous ballpark.
I've been there a couple of times.
It's huge.
I'm aware.
You had to be a man to hit it out of that park.
I'm aware.
I mean, my goodness.
Yep.
It reminds me of the park in Springfield. It's a big league park,
right.
Where they're playing the state championships.
Sure.
Ozark Mountain Sports I think it's Ozark Mountain Sports Complex, yes. It's a huge park. Yeah. And I've only seen Nazan Zanatello, drafted by the Boston Red Sox. I've seen, his name just went out of my head, shortstop at Francis Howell. Oh, he's at Mo State now. He was playing shortstop.
Well,
That's the only two guys I've seen him hit out of that park, man.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say in 2015, we played the Junior Legion State Tournament there. I was the manager of that team. We were playing Festus, and a kid hit one off the top of the fence.
Oh, man.
For Festus. And we lost that game. But we came back the next day, and we won the if-needed game. And we ended up winning the state title. But I remember when you were saying that, it brought back a very, very bitter memory. Because it hit the top of the fence. Oh, man.
Oh, mercy.
Yeah.
With that being said, we're talking about the connections, the connecting players and things and how you do that and navigating this and where those things go. The next thing, I know you guys have Washington Post 218. When I was at the conference this past couple weeks ago with Tom and Russ in Jeff City, I made it a point. I wanted to get out and talk to different people. Frankie Adams, man, fun dude to talk to. Jeff City, Post 5. It was fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's just Legion guys. Yeah. It's just Legion guys.
Yeah.
These are actual Post American Legion guys. A lot of fun. They support the programs and all that. and there's a lot of great people to talk to. The other gentleman, and I wish, and the terrible thing is I'm sitting here and I can't remember his name, had a long conversation with, he coached Jeff City Post 5 for a lot of years. Oh my goodness. I know. And I had it written down over there. I left it over there.
Right.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Had great conversations. We talked with, as I told you prior to coming on, Marthasville Post 180, and they told us that they support your program. And so there's a lot of there. But what I found is a lot of disconnect between the posts and the programs. Because that's part of, we talk about the philosophy, sportsmanship through citizenship and those types of things. How do you keep that connection?
Well, in Washington, we keep the connection because we have a couple of the Post members that, we ask to do a lot of things for us. And whenever we ask, they show up and they do it like instantly.
Wow.
Bob Kleppel's, one of the guys that, he hooked up he's a union electrician, retired. If we ask him to do something, next thing you know, it's done first class, So we had this, for the reason we had this trailer that they brought out, and it needed to, for the umpires, and it needed to have electric to it. He came out there like that, got it done. And we're tight with our posts. We just this past, I guess, August, we went to a dinner that they put on. We brought all of our committee there, and so we try to do our part. They try to do their part. But I think, in big picture, what you're talking about, I think the disconnect between the baseball and the posts are, a lot of the baseball teams are coming in to play American Legion baseball, and they get the post they use the post name. It's not a real secret that the American Legion membership is getting older.
Yes, sir.
And and obviously sad, but they're dying off per se. I don't mean to make that sound insensitive, but that's kind of the reality.
I understand what you mean.
And in turn, then the funds aren't really there that you could say, hey, we're gonna, here, some posts do a great job. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But, for some of those posts, they're not going to say, hey, here's $5,000, get yourself uniforms.
There's 3 people in the post, right?
Correct. Or, whatever, they just don't have enough to do that. So, that is part of that disconnect. And then, like I said, for us, Washington Post 218 is they were playing Post 218 baseball before I ever showed up on the landscape. And it is my hope it will be doing it well after I'm gone. But that's not necessarily the case with every post.
Right.
So you got to create that legacy, and I think then the posts, it gets more symmetric with each other. But that's my take on it.
I think it's interesting because and the other point to that is, where are the players in that? And getting those kids connected to that, seeing those people, I think that's kind of been lost a little bit. Because where I know they used to do, they would do fundraisers, and they would get the kids out there. They would go to one of the dinners, talk, help, maybe in the kitchen, that kind of thing. And to me, that's one of the things when you talk about club baseball as a whole, I don't think we're doing a very good job of getting the kids involved in giving back in the community. What's the community about? Because as you're talking about the coaches coming back, you have this handful of coaches come back. Hey, you know what? You're volunteering your time. You're giving back into the community. That shows me that they cared about the community to begin with, right?
Right. They're giving their time.
Exactly. So, how can we build a little bit more into that?
Yeah, that's part of what you dovetail your coaching and into with and then you kind of make it work for the post. You find out, like in our case, if we find out that they're having a dinner or they're having a barbecue or whatever, we're like, we try to funnel people there, whether it just be a Facebook post or a text within our group to say, hey, listen, I think that's a really good way to connect the dots.
Yep. Keep getting those kids. These are people that have been part of, the fabric of
Yeah,
the
I was going to
community
tell you
for a
just
long time.
I was going to tell you just a quick story that, one of the things that hooked me into coaching American Legion baseball is he's actually related to my wife. I call him Uncle Don, but his name's Don Schneider, and their cousins or something crazy like that. Don, if you're listening, you're going to love this part. So when I started coaching, Don, he cooked he did all the barbecuing. He had a couple of buddies that would come up to the park. Oh, yeah. 5 nights a week, he'd barbecue. 4 or 5 days a week at 6 o'clock in the morning, he'd go out on the river and catch catfish. And he would clean that catfish, and he would bring it to the park, and he'd cook it. Then the other days that he wasn't there fishing, he'd come back to the ballpark, and he'd scrub down the concession stand and the bleachers so everything would be ready to go for when we would play a game. Now, you don't have to see that happen more than 1 week in a row, and you're like, oh, man, I need to do more. Right? And I personally started doing more, but the big thing for me is at the end of every season I asked our players to all walk up there and shake his hand and say thank you, and every guy did it. And that's that's the learning curve of like, hey, these people are doing this for you. You're not paying attention, and when you get the players to pay attention to what's being done for them, I think it can open their eyes.
Yeah, and that's where you hope some of these players take, as they shake hands and say thank you, maybe they stop just to get to know him, talk to him. Why do you do this? Mm-hmm. Ask a question.
Right.
Because that person is going to share themselves and their experiences and their opportunities that they've had. And they learn that from somebody, and passing on some of that, I think is important.
Absolutely.
It is, man. It's
absolutely.
important.
Yeah, we had, you want to talk about before every game in the regional tournament, we had a veteran throw out a pitch. And they were brought to us through the state of Missouri, through a kind of like a portal. One of my best friends, her son played for me for years, Krista Huber. She met all of these veterans, and they would go out on the field. And when they would read some of these guys' bios, I'd be thinking like, what in the world? Like, they were in Afghanistan in 1940. Like
World War II, man.
Right. Can you imagine? And then it just goes on. The stuff, I would listen to every one of them and just be amazed at, some of the stuff those guys did. I mean, we're just playing baseball here.
Exactly, right? Exactly.
Tell you what. Yeah.
Kent, it's always fun, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Always.
Yeah.
You got. We'll get you back on. We hopefully get you on the winter workout tour. We'll talk about it, see what gives.
Sounds good.
And but hey, folks, if you want to check out what Post 218 is doing, if you have questions about it, if you're a coach, if you're a director, check it out.
Yeah, go to post218baseball.com. We have we have a Dropbox with all the pictures from the regional tournament up there. It's if you want to see some of the games and some of the images, they're up there by team and then by our opening ceremony.
There you go, folks. Do that. If you want to learn more about Missouri American Legion Baseball, go to MissouriAmericanLegionBaseball.org. We appreciate that very much. If you want to continue watching more stuff about American Legion Baseball, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications down there, or hit the dinger. Ding. Yeah, it's a dinger. It's not really a home run, but it does get you notifications.
There you go.
There you go. It's just as good.
Right.
Maybe.
There's a notification, you hit a home run.
That's right.
I like it.
For upcoming episodes such as this, and we appreciate it. We've got Connor Spinagle coming up. We're going to get a chance to talk with Connor, get him back on. Real quick though, I got to tell you, we had him scheduled to come on, and he texts me. He says, "I have tickets to the Royals-Yankees game." It was the first game at Kauffman Stadium. I was like, I'd cancel too. Right. Can I go? You got an extra ticket?
Right. I'll be there in a minute.
Right. So nice. We're going to get Connor on, and we're going to talk about some baseball there. So looking forward to that. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers, got some advice for pitchers?
Man, throw strikes.
I like it. It's easy, simple. All you hitters, hit them where they ain't. We'll see y'all next time.